Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVey, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. And today we are talking with Sheila Lowe. Hello, Sheila.
No, good to be here.
Thank you for being here. So before we start getting into different experiences, would you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself and a little background?
Well, let's see, I'm very old, so I could go back a long way. Um,
Whatever you feel comfortable with.
sure. Well, I'm a forensic handwriting examiner and a mystery author, but my interest in the spiritual realm started about 21 years ago when my daughter was killed by her boyfriend.
Mm.
And so, yeah, before that, growing up, I was raised in a very fundamentalist religion where any contact with spirit was considered demonic.
Mhm.
So it wasn't something I'd ever considered doing. But after Jennifer was killed, I wanted to know what happened because I didn't believe in that religion anymore. And so I started studying metaphysical things and supernatural, or whatever you want to call it, paranormal, and learned quite a bit. And the most important thing being that there is no death. There's only life after earth. And so I had a lot of experiences having to do with that. And over the years, you don't necessarily think about it as much, but in 2016, the man I was seeing died very suddenly of a heart attack. And so that brought it all back and reawakened interest. I don't know how long you want me to go on, but that's kind of where I am now.
Yeah, I mean that's great. I was going to ask what first got you interested in the topic. This is interesting to me. So your religious background didn't allow for it was a no-no, I guess, for like tarot cards or mediumship or, talking to the dead or psychic abilities. All of that stuff was off limits.
Absolutely. In fact, my mother hasn't spoken to me except for maybe a few minutes at a time in the last 21 years.
Oh.
And yeah, for that reason. And my kids, when they were little, had told her that I had tarot cards, which I never admitted to her. But maybe 10 years ago, she lives 150 miles from me. And I called her up and I said, I haven't seen you for a long time and I'm going to be out your way. I'd like to come and see you. And she said, do you still have those tarot cards? And you say it right. And I said, well, I wasn't going to bring any tarot cards to see you. I won't have any in the car. And she said, well, that doesn't matter. You have the demons. And I said, well, if I have demons, why have they never bothered me? And she said, because they're very clever. Like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to try this anymore.
So well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, okay, so 20 years. So when you first got interested in all these kinds of metaphysical, et cetera, topics, that was when Jennifer passed?
Yeah, in 2000.
In 2000, okay. So if I could, like what kinds of, you probably did a bunch of research, started just digging in and researching. Did you start having any kinds of experiences that you could share?
Yeah, right away. I had in the 1980s, 85 was when I got kicked out of that religion. And I started doing some exploring and had gone, I'd had tarot readings. So I had that kind of exposure. But after her death, it was like, I don't know, the next day, I had things like the phone ringing, both my landline and my cell phone. And when I picked them up, it was just static. And I could hear a voice very far away. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I knew that was her. And then the smell of her perfume would come into the room and things like, at the funeral, I was walking up the hill. She was being buried at the top of the hill. And my husband at the time and I were walking behind the hearse. And everybody got out and they were taking the casket out, my two sons and her uncle. And all of a sudden, her uncle's car alarm went off. It said beep, 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 really loud. And it's like, that's her. Because nobody was touching it. Nobody was near the
Hello,
car.
I'm here.
Exactly. Stuff like that. And, I had a frame jump off the wall,
Oh.
nobody near it, and a little doll that I had up on a shelf. I walked into the room and it jumped off.
Mm-hmm.
And the radio would turn up by itself. And she was killed on a Saturday. And on the Tuesday, I had to go to her apartment, which was about 100 miles south in Orange County, and close it up and, get all her things distributed, and met the father of the guy who killed her. And it was, a difficult day.
Wow.
And I had to take her cats. She had two cats. And I had to pick them up from the pound. And I was taking them out to Riverside, which is 120 miles east of me, because my brother was going to take care of them.
Mm.
And so I had them in the car, and they were very quiet, which is unusual. My cats, whenever I would take them in the car, they would be constantly meowing and
Yes.
carrying on. Well, they were really quiet, and it was raining. It was just at night, and it was awful. And all of a sudden, the light came on in my car, the dome, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
call that light. Never had done that before, and never since. And I knew that was Jennifer letting me know she was there.
Ah, so cool.
Yeah, so I've had all kinds of stuff like that. Not as much these days, but right in the beginning.
Why is that? I have heard that sometimes it's in the beginning. Is it they have more energy, or they're just, after all of your research and experiences, do you have any theories as to why that happens?
Mhm. And it's just my theory. I'm sure you've probably gone on a trip far away, maybe to Europe or somewhere else.
Mhm.
And when you get there, you call home and you let your folks know that you're okay, or you
True.
send an email or something, and you say, I got here. And then after that, you want to go on your trip and have fun, or do whatever you're there
An
for.
interesting point. I've never heard it put that way. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they
Wow.
want to check back once in a while and say, I'm still here.
I love that. I love that. Wow. So, and another thing I've heard is that they do, for some reason, mess with electronics or lights or, TV. I've heard of the static. And do you have any theories as to that? Does that have something to do with energies?
I've just read that it's easier for them to manipulate those electronic things than some of the other methods of communication. It's really hard. I read somewhere that it was likened to, coming and communicating directly is like trying to communicate sitting on the bottom of a swimming pool.
Oh,
Not
okay.
easy, because it's the density of the energy here is
Right.
so strong.
Right. And so now, as you move forward, what other kinds of things did you learn and get involved in that expanded your understanding of the spiritual world?
After my boyfriend died, and I don't even remember how it came about, but I found out about the Afterlife Research Education Institute, AREI, and they were having a conference in Scottsdale. And so I signed up and I went, and it was wonderful. There were like
Wow.
500 people there, and I got to know a lot of people. And then I went again the next year. And it's funny, at the end of the conference, and this time there were 800 people there, and there were some fantastic
Good.
things. I'm trying to think of which things to talk about, because there are so many good things happening. And I met some really terrific people. But Craig Hogan, who was the guy who's the head of the organization, said that he told the audience, or somebody, maybe it wasn't Craig. Anyway, they said that they wanted to start a bunch of Zoom groups on different topics. And so they wanted to know what people were interested in and who would like to join them. And I said, because I'm a handwriting analyst and a forensic document examiner, I said, I would be interested in a group on automatic writing, because I've always been interested in it. It's not something I've actually done, but I was always interested. And, you know, the next thing I knew, I was the host of the group.
So how many years ago was this then that you started?
3.
3 years ago. Yeah, I've heard of the automatic handwriting. I know even some people, when they're channeling, they'll doodle to help. It's like I don't know exactly. It seems like it's some kind of meditation, gets them in sort of a space. What would you say about that?
Yeah, well, what I found from the group, there's like 100 people on the list, but about between 12 and 20. Well, last night we had 28 people. We had a special guest. They come, and some of them are mediums and some of them are just interested. So one calls herself a perpetual student and is just interested. So it's not a class, it's a discussion group, and we go far afield of automatic writing. But what I found out from being in the group is that I used to think that automatic writing was just you focus and meditate and spirit picks up your hand and starts moving it. And sometimes that's the case. But that's not all that automatic writing is. It could be inspired writing, where you're getting messages in your head and you're just writing them down like a secretary. Or it could be typed. It doesn't have to be handwritten.
Okay.
It could be all kinds of things.
Would you say some writers are poets and that some of that might be channeled information? They're getting inspired from the other side?
Well, funny you should ask that.
Okay.
So I write books, fiction and nonfiction, and I wanted to write, you know, when Jennifer was killed, I always thought that I would write a book about her life, because she had a very difficult life. And the guy who killed her was her boyfriend. And yeah, I'm sure it was a karmic thing. And he killed himself too. He was a federal agent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he had a child, and, you know, my daughter was only with him for less than a year. So it was tragic in many ways. But I just never could write that book. It was too difficult. So I was thinking about, I need to write a new book, and I'd like to write a book about something spiritual. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a real story. I could write a fiction. I've written, you know, lots of fiction books. So I could write a fiction that has to do with spirit, and maybe it will help people. And I'm kind of a psychic junkie. And so over a period of months, I went to 3 different mediums, and they all told me the same thing, that I was going to write this book. I mean, they didn't know I was writing a book. I'm going to write this book, and Jennifer would help me.
Oh, okay.
So she did. And I wish I could say that she, you know, gave me automatic thoughts and just helped me write the book, you know, just wrote it, which would be much easier. But what she did was answer questions that I had, and she probably inspired parts of it. But there was this one question, this scene where the character goes to hell. It's in a dream or in a trance. And when she wakes up, she has these black X's on her palms. And I left it at that. And when I sent the book to my publisher, the comments came back, well, what happened about the X? So what did that mean? I was like, oh, now I got to figure that out. And so I asked Jennifer, because I just couldn't figure it out. And instantly, I got like a download of a really good answer that resolved that question.
So can we get the name of the book?
Of course.
I mean, we'll put the stuff in the description, of course, in the video.
I should have one to hold up.
But I would love to know.
Yeah, it's called Proof of Life.
Ooh, interesting.
And several really well-known mediums read it and gave it blurbs, like Suzanne Giesemann and also Gary Schwartz and others.
Wow.
So they said it was very realistic.
When was that published? How long ago now?
2 years ago.
Okay, so when Jennifer helped you with the book, was it usually like downloads of information, or more, would you say more inspirational things that you think that didn't come from me, that had to come from her?
Yeah, that just, I mean, it happened just a handful of times. But when it happened, I knew it. But it wasn't just her. I was writing a scene in the beginning where I lived near the beach in Ventura, California. And so I was writing a scene where this character was walking on the promenade at the beach. And all of a sudden, in my head, my dead boyfriend came riding up on his bicycle, which he used to love to do on there. And I thought, okay, you want to be in the book? Okay, I'll put you in the book. So I put him in the scene. And then
Wow.
much later, many chapters later, the same thing happened. She's walking on the same area. And it's like, here comes Arnie riding up on his bike. And I said, you know, that doesn't make sense. Arnie, if you're going to be in this scene, you need to be there for a reason. So let me know what you want to do there. And again, I was driving in my car at the time. And almost instantly, again, I get this download of a really good, fantastic reason for him to be in the scene.
Okay. Whoa, that's pretty cool. I love that.
Yes,
But you've written several books before this. Is that correct?
16.
16. Okay. So you know what you're doing. But so is this the only one that you've recognized you definitely had help from the other side? Did you feel
Yes.
that with any of the others?
Um, I don't think so.
So
No.
this book, Proof of Life,
Mhm.
is by Sheila Lowe. Or do you give credit to Jennifer at all? Or do you just say, I don't know if you should do, what you
I
think of
think
that?
I dedicated it to her, as I recall.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty, so you won't tell us about what the X's are. We have to get the book to find out.
that's right.
Okay, darn. You just piquing our interest, and now we're like, okay,
Yeah.
I got to find this out.
Well, it's in print, it's in digital, and it's in audio.
Oh,
And
cool.
I have some free audio codes. I have a few left. If anybody wants them, they can contact me and see if I still got them.
Lovely. Very nice. Do you want to share any other interesting, because we have about 30 minutes. We have time, few about 10 more minutes. And I was curious if you wanted to share any other kinds of experiences that you've had, but I also wanted to ask how it's been hosting the automatic handwriting class, if you could share about that, either one of those things.
Well, I have another little experience with Jennifer that, I mean, that I'd be happy to share. That the hosting the group has just been wonderful because the people are just so great. And there's a core group that have been there since the beginning, which is 3 years. And then there's people who come and go as they can. And they've been in Australia. We've got several from Australia and in Hong Kong. And I think we've had some from the UK, which is my home. And so it's just been wonderful. And as of last year, I've started, before we used to just get together and talk about what we've been doing. And then I started inviting guest speakers, and maybe you'd like to come and speak and meet the group. And then sometimes what we do when we don't have a guest speaker is we have a 14-minute meditation. Mm-hmm. And one of our members is a musician, and she put it to music, and she has a wonderful voice, and she gives this meditation, and we do a group meditation, and then we see what we can get. It's specific to automatic writing, and we see if we get any messages, and then whoever wants to shares them. So it's a really cool group. Anybody is welcome to come.
So these automatic messages, are they most often from loved ones who have passed on, or are they sometimes from guides that are in our lives, or both?
They're more like guides and maybe your higher self, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. So they're not usually, although some of the mediums sometimes occasionally will have a message for somebody in the group.
Oh.
But that's kind of rare.
So some mediums do, I really don't know a whole lot about this, so excuse me for asking, you know, questions that seem pretty basic, but so do some mediums use then the automatic writing as part of their
Mhm.
gift, or sometimes is that what they do, how they use their mediumship abilities?
Well, we probably have to ask them, but some of them definitely use it as part of giving messages. They feel
Oh,
inspired to write.
okay.
Yeah, there's been some
That's,
really
yeah,
great
that's,
messages.
yeah, that, so, would you say these messages are for like their current life mostly, to give them guidance about how to proceed forward in their current life?
Yeah, they're usually very poetic and messages of encouragement.
Hmm,
Usually they're about love and stuff
interesting.
like that.
Some of these questions I'm asking because I've always been a writer, and I've write lyrics and poetry, and sometimes I don't know where it's coming from. I feel like I don't know where it's coming from, and it's very uh it's often cathartic and healing, and it's just expressing, you know, and sometimes I think, I don't know if that is helpful to anyone, but that was helpful to me. You
Well,
know.
that's what counts, right? Maybe some of it probably is inspired.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I guess that's one of the benefits. So some of this gifting, obviously you can learn how to do automatic writing. That was one of my questions. Can you learn how to do these gifts? But you also said you had some psychic abilities. Is that true? Did I hear
No,
you say that? Oh, okay.
no,
I thought,
I'm always told that by psychics, but
but they
I don't know.
haven't, they're not clicking, but you still have some, seems like you have some intuitive things going on with you to
Yeah,
be in this,
yeah, I think so.
hosting
And
this class.
lately, as I've done several handwriting analyses, I don't do a lot of that anymore. I mostly do forensic work, but I have noticed in the past week in several analyses I've done that I felt like I was getting information from somewhere else. And the feedback that I got from the people whose handwriting it was, one of them said scary accurate, and another one, these were sent to me by a third party. I wasn't dealing directly with them, but one of them said that it was kind of scary to have somebody know them so well who had never had any dealings with them, because their handwriting revealed so much.
And what would you say are the benefits? That's an important thing. What, in your experience, how has it benefited those who have been in these classes and learned how to do this for themselves?
To do automatic writing,
Hmm.
which is different from what I was just talking about, handwriting analysis.
Yes, yes.
I think, for one thing, many of them have expressed that it's great to have a place where they can talk about this stuff, because some of them feel reticent in their regular life about, because somebody's like, oh, are you crazy? But what I found is I don't care what people think, and so I'll tell anybody. And
Mm.
most of the time, if not all the time, they'll come back and tell me about their experiences. It's very common for people to have spiritual type experiences. They just don't talk about it.
Yes. And that is one of the reasons I wanted to start doing these interviews, is because I just feel like it needs to be more mainstream, all of these different experiences we're having. And sometimes for religious reasons, we're not allowed to talk about it, or, or family members, we don't want, to make a relationship difficult. There's so many reasons. It's sad to me because I feel like this happens to probably most people, some kind of spiritual experience, and I would just like people to feel more comfortable talking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, do we have time for one anecdote?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Hmm.
because this is a case where I didn't know somebody, but I blurted out. I had asked Jennifer, this is a couple of years ago, I asked her for a sign. I said, if you're still around me, give me a sign, let me know. Well, a couple of days went by and I didn't notice anything. And then I went to a networking meeting that I belonged to, And at the back of the room, we have a table where we put our wares. So I put my books back there. And there was a new member that I didn't know. And she brought some signs and little wooden signs for different things. And I saw one that I really liked. And I'll show it to you. And it says, Mermaid Crossing. Okay. And I said, oh, that's a nice sign. I like that. And Jennifer was a big fan of mermaids. I have a poster in my living room that I took from her apartment of a mermaid. And I thought, oh, okay, great. And then when I got home, I thought, oh, look at that. It's a sign. It's a literal sign that she sent me. It's mermaid. And then I thought, it says Mermaid Crossing. So she crossed over. So that's more of the sign.
Oh, yeah.
So that wasn't even enough. I felt compelled for some reason to send an email to the woman who had painted the sign. I didn't know her, but I told her this little story, and she immediately emailed me back and she said, I have goosebumps because I was sitting in my car ready to go to the meeting, and then I realized I wasn't wearing the earrings that I wanted to wear. And so I went back in the house to put them on, and on my way out the door, I passed the table where I'd been working that day, and there was this sign. And I thought, oh, I'll take that one with me. So nothing is a
Wow.
coincidence.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, do you want to share any current projects you're working on? And also, if how listeners can contact you and connect with you. And again, I'll put anything you want me to in the description as well.
Okay. Well, anybody can contact me at sheilalowe.com, which is SHEILALOWE. Mostly it's I before E, but not in my name. And SheilaLoweBooks.com. You can always reach me through that. So that's good. But as for what I'm working on now, I'm working on the next book in that series, in the Proof of Life series.
Oh, okay.
Which is going to be called The Last Door.
Oh.
So I'm noodling the plot right now.
Oh, okay. I love it. Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out and share about your experiences. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for watching. This has been Julie McVey with Unordinary Made Ordinary, hoping you'll join us next time for another fascinating interview. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this type of content, of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon so then you'll be alerted to future videos. And I do hope you are having a wonderful day or evening wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And and I'll see you all next time. Bye.